we have all been enjoying the wonderful carousel option that Bibliocommons provides, that Pica provides for Northern Waters. Unfortunately, WVLS libraries have to build carousels manually. And of course, oh, there they are. So these are manual carousels that I built for Gilman. And you can see the function is still the same. I can hover over it and click on something, right? But it's very time intensive, sorry. Now with BiblioCore / Bibliocommons, and this is Pica from Northern Waters, you can automatically populate a carousel. But what if you want to try out a different kind of display? What if, like I saw a list up at Mercer for for books and library resources related to kombucha and making your homemade kombucha, right? Well, maybe you don't necessarily want that in a carousel. Maybe you want to have a Pride Month list, or you're using Beanstack. So if you did the Beanstack Read Woke challenge and you wanted a book list to go along with it, maybe you don't want that. You don't necessarily need that in a carousel. Maybe you want to have just kind of a few cover selections that is clickable, or like Carissa saw, St. Paul Public Library has a fun little icon-y thing, a square featured box that isn't a carousel, but it does show some of the covers with a brief description of the reading list. So I just have to be patient and let the page populate. So this one is an if you liked list. So if you like John Green, then try these authors, or right? If you want to read more manga, here are some librarian recommended titles. So it has a nice little spot for a description. It says it's a staff list, and it has a nice title there with a really a really functional and visually appealing area for an image. And you'll notice that it fits right in along with their other. Here's a resource. This one's an event, so it's a consistent styling. Rice Lake Public Library manages its own website, but it also has that nice featured list option. Just got to wait for the page to load. So that's their Facebook that's embedded. We're looking for beautiful. Look at these. See how nice that is? They do a 3x3 image, and that's tied into the description and a clickable list, right? So how do they do that, right? Well, unfortunately, there's some elbow grease behind it, because BiblioCore doesn't have an auto-populating visual tool similar to a carousel that looks different. So I made some workarounds, and I am going to enable the visual builder on Prescott because I was playing around on Friday. Friday is my favorite day for website work because I feel like I have all the time in the world, and my email is clear, and so I feel like I have this little pocket of creative time on Fridays. And I created 3 different versions of a workaround that looks like those other featured boxes, but I used Canva and a persistent query from BiblioCore. So in Bibliocommons, you can, with a staff account, create your own search. And then you can take a link to that search and link it to a button or an image on your web page, right? So that's different than a list. In BiblioCommons, you can create a list manually that is auto-populated to a carousel. But for a query or a search, you can say Prescott New Adult Fiction, and it will just continually refresh that results list without you having to click refresh or without you having to pull those titles into that search result like you do for a list. Now, Pica is kind of in between these because if you're a Northern Waters Library, Pica uses a persistent list to update the carousel. So as far as I can tell, it's kind of an in-betweener in that for Northern Waters libraries, they don't need to update their carousels. Their search is automatically always updating their carousels. And we can do some experimenting to make sure that's still true. But that's pretty cool, huh? WVLS does not have this option right now. WVLS uses EBSCO, but they will be using Aspen, which has more flexibility. Anywho's, let's go back to Prescott. So Prescott has all of the options on their page here. If we scroll down a little bit, first you can see the carousels that are now disappearing. Okay, there we go. And then if I sneak down, here's one with a 2x6 grid of new book title covers, a nice title of the list, and a quick description that matches the St. Paul Public Library blurb, right? Then we have one with a more jaunty assortment of book covers, a description, and the title. And then this one is a series of Canva slides that I just plugged into a slider set to automatically rotate. And the entire slider is linked to that BiblioCommons list. So let's walk through that again. First, I was trying to decide what kind of appearance would be desirable. Okay, if we don't want a carousel of all these book covers in a long line, what do we want it to look like? And the Rice Lake and St. Paul Public Libraries had grids of book covers. And so in Canva, what I did is I took a custom size of 800 by 800 so that the book covers would be really crisp and look good. And I went to the frames section of Canva, and all I did is I grabbed rectangle frames, I plunked them in. So now, if I wanted to use this style, all I need to do to update that tile is grab a few of the hot books on my list and plunk them in from my upload section. So here you should see a few of the book covers. So now, if I wanted to update Joy Fielding, all I need to do is go over here, grab a book cover, and plug it in. And when I have all the book covers that I want, all I need to do is download a JPEG, and I keep it at the maximum quality because we want those book covers to be crisp. And then I click on my module that I want to update. I switch out the image, and that's it. Because the list, like I mentioned, is constantly updating itself, as far as I can tell. So, this next one is the same idea. I grabbed a few different frames, I threw them onto a custom-sized image area, and so then all you need to do again for this new arrangement is still upload a few book titles upload a few book covers and then drag them over into the image, save it as a JPEG, and update it in the module here. Now, when it comes to this fancy dancy looking rotating image slider deal over here, why is it doing that? It's a little bit more time intensive. So what do I mean by I created a whole bunch of slides in Canva, I downloaded it as an MP4, and then I put all of the MP4 in one slide. Okay, that's getting complicated. Let's walk through it. So here we are in Canva, and I started with a image or a file that is, oh, come on, Canva. I'm going to close some stuff. See if that helps. Okay, so now I'm in Canva. The size I chose was 1080 by 1080 because I must have chose a social media template. And then I made my first slide. Then what you can do is actually duplicate, right? So I duplicated the number of book covers that I wanted. And then if you click on this succeeding slides, all I did is I went to my uploads. I uploaded the book covers. I dragged them over onto their own slide and I moved on. Next slide, new cover. Next slide, new cover. You'll notice that I'm not touching these other areas. And that's because once you have the animation down, or all set, I should say, and you can animate by clicking on the book title, on the book cover, and then going to effects, right? So you can change it, right? Then, when you have all the book covers ready to go, oh, and you have to animate the whole slide, not just the book cover, excuse me. So you plunk the book cover onto your page, which is just in a frame, right? It'll snap into place, right? You click on the side of the slide so that nothing is highlighted specifically. Then you can choose animate. And when you choose animate, you can have everything tumble in. You can have the photo zoom in, right? So you want to be consistent and use the same animation between every single slide. We kept it very simple. And I set each slide to rotate every 2.5 seconds. Once you have all your slides in here, then you go up to download and you download it as an MP4 video and you click download. You find the module, click on the gear to edit it, and you'll notice that I used a slider. And that's because if you chose a gallery, you can't necessarily put a link to the entire gallery and have the images pass by. But you can put a link on the module of a slider and pop in a video in the background area of a singular slide. So there it goes. And if you pop in a video, then you are taking away the need to add in each and every slide, right? So download all your slides, put them in there as one video, and then you don't have to put them in individually. And then you go to advanced and transitions, or is it in the slide? I think we have to do it in the slide. You don't have to worry about transitions because it's a video that's doing all that work. So you only have one slide, no transitions. The link is linked to the BiblioCommons query, and then you're all good to go. So this method of using a slider with one slide that contains an MP4 file of your Canva slides linked to a persistent search will work for BiblioCommons and Pica. In Pica, you can create your search parameters. Say, I want to see all of the new movies at Ashland. You can put that in Pica, steal the permanent link, and add the link to an image that will serve as your button. So sorry that was not smooth sailing, but there's all kinds of ins and outs. But I feel like you guys are familiar with the ins and outs and all the detail work with website stuff by now, right? There's always a way to get where you want to go. Okay, do you guys have any questions on that? I just talked for a long time. I don't think there's any questions on there.
Oh, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
So they both seem like you have to touch them when you get new things. What's the advantage one way or another to do the process that you just brought us through versus a carousel of new items at our library?
So all of this is just preference. All of it is simply preference. If you say, well, you know, I'd rather just have a page that has all the carousels on there of new items and a menu term that says go to the page to shop for new titles, right? Let's, you know, if okay. Or you could say, you know, I want to promote a few book lists. You know, like right here, you can see Read Africa. Maybe you want Pride Month on there. Maybe you want Women's History or Black History Month on there. But all of a sudden, you've got like 6 different carousels, and the space that's being used for a carousel is competing with your summer reading or your calendar events, right? So you want to simplify them and put them as maybe a featured box like this. That's all. Just preference.
Okay.
Or let's say you want to do Battle of the Books, but you don't want to dedicate half of your youth page to carousels for Battle of the Books. You could have these nice little squares with a couple of the covers saying elementary level, middle school level, high school level. Just preference.
Okay.
And it was just way too much fun that I couldn't stop playing around with it. So, and someone asked, what's Pica? So Pica is a discovery layer, just like BiblioCommons is. WVLS uses the EBSCO discovery layer. Ooh. So that needs some help. So when I do a search for WVLS, I'm going to skip that and come back to it. When I do a search in a search box for a Wisconsin Valley Library Service library item, the tool that retrieves search results is a discovery layer. So WVLS libraries use the EBSCO discovery layer, right? Now, if I do one for a IFLS library system library, it's going to look like this. So this is their landing page for their discovery layer. And now I'm going to do a search for the same search for Harry Potter. And this is how the BiblioCommons discovery layer shows items versus the WVLS discovery layer. And thirdly, let's go to Haywood. And I'm going to click on catalog. This is the Northern Waters Pica. I'm doing the same search across 3 different discovery layers, and they all show up differently. So Pica uses the Ferber method of saying, so you have Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, you got the book, the audio book on CD, we got large print, we got the ebook, right? So it puts all of the iterations or all of the formats or all of the works representing Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone into one result. And IFLS libraries are very similar. You'll see a book here with an ebook. I'm trying to scroll down to see some more examples here. So here's the audio book with a book, right? And then for WVLS, it doesn't do that. Here's one of a book. Here's one of Overdrive. Here's one of audiobook. Here's one for ebook. So ours are all separate. And that's based on the discovery layer that we have. And the look of the results is based on the discovery layer. So Caitlin, hopefully that's helpful. WVLS libraries have to use the EBSCO discovery layer currently until our new Aspen discovery layer goes live. Okay, so that is the first segment that I wanted to walk through. It's just different preference options for displaying new titles. And if you guys want any of these or a process to